I'm going to share 6 tips that I jotted down here this morning about how to overcome adversity as an entrepreneur, freight broker, freight agent. Cool. So everybody's here. All right, ready to go. Awesome. I'm glad you guys tuned in. So guys, the 6 tips, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each one. Okay. The 6 tips are this. And this goes without saying, and I'm not trying to sound all woo woo. And I'm not trying to be Tony Robbins, and I'm not trying to be some motivational speaker, but the fact is you have to maintain a positive attitude. I know every day you wake up, you have a choice of whether you are going to focus on the positive or the negative. And I promise you that if you want to overcome difficulties and adversity in your life, in your business, keeping a positive attitude is critical, right? I've never seen anybody with a negative attitude succeed long-term in life or in business because they drive people away from them. They create barriers between them and their customers. They repel success. Negative people repel success and positive people attract success. So you have to do everything in your power to maintain a positive attitude. And I know that's hard. One of the ways that I maintain a positive attitude, I will tell you, that helps me tremendously is I don't read the newspaper. I don't really watch the news, right? Even in these tough times, even with everything that's going on, I'm very, very, very selective in tuning into the media because it's all negative. If you watch the media for more than 5 minutes, you'd think that, a meteor was on its way, was 1,000 miles away from the earth, and it was inevitable that our planet was going to blow up. And that's just not the fact. China and other countries are on the other side of this hump and are coming out of it. And as will every other country that's experienced this, whether it's Italy or Spain or the United States or whatever it is. And I don't want to make this about Corona, but I do want you to understand that this will pass. Even this will pass. Okay. So keeping a positive attitude is just really, really important. Okay. And I know sometimes it's difficult. A great way to do that is to, as opposed to focusing in on the media, focus in on positive messages. So there's an old example, right? I remember Brendan Burchard. So imagine this glass is clear, but it's filled up with all dirty water. And that's your bad attitude, right? That's all negativity. Now imagine me pouring clear water into the top of that glass and just continuing to pour clear, clean water into that glass. I just keep pouring it and pouring it and pouring it. What happens to that glass after a little while? After a little while, all the darkness disappears and it's just clear, clean water. So if you pour positive into that glass, it dilutes out the negative, dark, dismal water, right? And so the same thing happens with your attitude. So focus on positive messages, read positive books, hang around positive people. All right. So I think I touched on that enough. Again, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm not trying out for the Tony Robbins show. And I have no intentions of becoming a motivational speaker unless this helps motivate you. Number 2, this is a time to build relationships. Double down on relationships. Now, why are relationships important in difficult times? Well, isolating yourself in difficult times is never a good idea because that creates a lot of, if you are in a negative mindset, it's very hard to break out if you isolate yourself, right? So don't isolate yourself. What you need to do is you need to find peers. You need to find mentors. You need to find advisors. You need to find friends. And so part of me getting together on this call weekly, I want you guys to connect. I want you to understand that this is a community where you can come. It's a safe place where you can come, you can hang out, you can listen, you can ask some questions, you can learn, and we can just do this together. Okay. So build relationships, reach out and connect with people, right? And so if those are people that maybe you haven't talked to in a while because you've been very busy, reach out and connect. Skype them, FaceTime them, Zoom message them, just send them a text, whatever the case may be, but don't isolate yourself. It's very difficult to go through adversity alone. It's 10 times easier. It's 100 times easier in reality, in my opinion, to go through it with friends and people that you care about and that you respect and that you like. Okay? So build relationships. Don't isolate yourself. That's number 2. Number 3 kind of goes hand in hand with number 2, but is a little bit different, which is surround yourself with smart people. So it's, as a business owner, when you first started out as a freight broker or a freight agent or any entrepreneur, typically it's just you. You're sitting here, you're the chief cook and bottle washer, you do everything. And there's nobody else there. This is how your business started. It's how every business I've ever started. It was just me, or maybe a partner. If I had a partner in that business that co-founded it with me, but ultimately you're typically standing alone. And then what happens is you hire your first person or your second person or your 10th person or your 100th person. And now you have a team. And so when I say surround yourself with smart people, number 1, your team and the people that you work with, your goal should be to hire smart people, because the smarter the people are that you hire, the less stressful your job will be. Now, think about that. If I hired somebody who was really good at X, they were 10 times better at X than me, I would have all kinds of comfort in knowing that they're going to do a better job than me. Now, on the other hand, if I hire somebody who's not as good at this as me and maybe not as smart as me, I'm always going to have some reservations about that person. Are they doing it the right way? Are they handling it the way I would? There's always going to be questions. So surrounding yourself with smart people, first with your team, right? Second, in your social circles, right? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That was something I learned very early on by Jim Rohn. I think it was Jim Rohn that said it. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so if you spend your time with below average people that are not very intelligent, not very motivated, right? Not very fun, not very friendly, then they're going to drag you down into that moat. On the other hand, if you spend your time with super successful, super people who have an amazing attitude and outlook on life, people that are really, really smart, right? That's going to raise your stock. That's going to raise your trajectory. Okay. So surrounding yourself with smart people is really important. All right. Your goal should be never to be the smartest person in the room. That's a goal that I set a long time ago. Whenever I go to an event, whenever I participate in an event, whenever I have a meeting, whatever that case may be, my goal is to never be the smartest person in that room. I love when smart people come in and collaborate with me and have conversations, and we can have meaningful conversations. So number 1, positive attitude. Number 2, build relationships. Number 3, surround yourself with smart people. Okay. Number 4. And this is an important one. It's overlooked, especially in times like this, right? In difficult times like this, when many people are not working and they're stuck at home, or maybe they had to migrate to their home office. Balancing work and health can be challenging. As you all know, it's challenging anyway, but in a time like this, it can be very challenging. For example, I've worked at home for the last 6 years, right? So I've spent a lot of time at home, on and off through home, particularly the last 3 or 4 years, but since selling the company. But ultimately, I spent a lot of time working from home, so I've developed a little bit of a discipline. But it's very easy to, number 1, overwork, which means you go into your office and you just work 14, 16, 18 hours a day. I've done it. Trust me, I know exactly what you're talking about. And so because everything is right here, you have a tendency to overdo it, right? You don't balance the work and the health and the personal side, right? So you have to balance work and health. So a couple things on that, right? The fact is, being unhealthy eating unhealthy, not sleeping enough, not getting any physical activity, those all cause additional stress within your body and your mind. So your mind and your body are directly connected. So when your mind thinks something, your body adapts. And when your body feels something, your mind adapts. It works both ways. And so what happens is if you don't sleep properly, if you don't eat properly, if you don't get a little bit of physical activity every day, 15 to 30 minutes, I mean, you don't have to go run a marathon. Go out and take a walk. Now is a great time to take a walk, right? Just by yourself or with your dog or with your kids. You know, balancing that is really important to overcoming stress and adversity, right? Stress and adversity feeds on stress, right? So you want to eliminate as much of the physical and mental stress as you can. Of course, we're entrepreneurs. So the fact is there's going to be some stress, right? It happens. Cash flow and employees and customer issues and all kinds of things, you know, are always being thrown at you. I get it. But balance work and health. Okay. Try to focus a little bit on your health. I'm not saying you got to go out and lose 20 pounds. You know, if you need to go out and lose 20 pounds, I need to lose 20 pounds. I don't need to lose 20. I need to lose 15 pounds. And I'm in the process of working on that. So I'm not standing from the outside preaching in. Trust me, these are things that I need to do. These are things that I do. Right. And so I just want you to understand that I'm not, I'm not speaking down. I'm speaking in a level eye to you because I want you to understand that this impacts me too. Balance is important. The three things: work, family, health. Those three things you have to balance. But the fact is, if you don't have your health, all those other things really don't mean anything. Okay. So that's number 4. Number 5. And this is something I've talked about many, many times before in different lives and different content and different video and different conversations and different trainings. And that is understand, you just have to acknowledge and understand the fact that adversity is a norm in business. It's just a normal part of business. Okay. You have to understand that adversity is the norm. You know, there's an old saying, you know, the only constant in business is change. Well, that's part of it, right? Adversity, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, adversity is just part of it, right? It's the norm. You have to be prepared mentally for it. You have to know going in that there's going to be adversity, right? I mean, the fact is, that's why I love being an entrepreneur, because it's never boring like a job, right? That's a lot of reason why people take my training and become entrepreneurs or freight brokers or agents, whatever they decide to do, is because they're bored. They're bored in their job. They've hit the ceiling. They have no upward mobility. Financially, they're not going to be able to grow. Intellectually, they're not going to be able to grow. And so they're just extremely bored. Well, I can tell you one thing. You will understand very quickly that you will not be bored as an entrepreneur, because there's always change. There's always going to be some level of adversity, but that's what makes it fun. People that are good entrepreneurs are good at solving those problems and tackling those problems and are not adverse to having some adversity in their life. If you do not do well with having a little bit of adversity, then I would tell you that being an entrepreneur is probably not for you. And that's okay. You can have a great job and a great career in the logistics industry, working for a carrier, working for a broker, working in warehousing, working somewhere in supply chain, wherever that is, working on the shipper side. You can have a great career in logistics without being an entrepreneur, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And for some of you, that's the right bet, okay? And that's the right bet for you. But for those of you that are interested in really becoming an entrepreneur or already are an entrepreneur, and you're looking to start a freight brokerage or a freight agency, you guys know I've trained over 7,000 students through my Freight Broker Bootcamp online course. This isn't a commercial for that, but if you guys want to check that out, just go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com. It's always available. We've got lifetime memberships now as well, so people don't have to renew. So just check that out if you guys are curious, if you're here because you're curious about becoming a freight broker or a freight agent. Okay. So you have to understand and mentally prepare for the fact that adversity is the norm in business, right? That's number 5. Number 6, focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses. Now, why is this important? A couple things. Number 1, when you focus on your weaknesses, it creates stress and anxiety because you're always thinking about how you're not as good as you should be, right? So here's a perfect example. One of my weaknesses and one of the things I do not like in business is the finance component of the business. I do not like the accounting. I don't like any of the accounting or the bean counting or the counting the money or paying vendors. I don't like any of that stuff. I don't like any of that financial management side. And that's just me. That's just part of me. So in every business that I have somebody that handles the finances for me, whether that be a controller, a CPA, my lawyer, whoever handles those financial obligations, I always outsource that. I focus in rather than focusing in on getting better at managing finances. I'm really good at making money, right? But I'm just not good at spending it or allocating it or the financial management side. It just doesn't interest me, right? Banking and tax returns and all that just doesn't interest me, right? Balancing the books doesn't interest me. I just want to get a financial statement once a month. That's really what I look forward to. And I can summarize it. I'll probably read it for 15 minutes and that's all I really need to do because I'll have a good sense as to what's going on in the business. But I focus in on my strengths. What are my strengths? My strengths are customer acquisition and retention. That comes predominantly from two strategies, sales and marketing. Right? So I double down and focus in on my strengths as opposed to my weaknesses. And so what happens is because I do that, number one, it makes me happy because those are my strengths. Those are the things I'm good at. Those are the things where I can have an impact. So mentally, I feel better. Secondarily, it's going to have a bigger impact on the business. And when you're going through difficult times, if you're good at sales and you see your sales going down and you know that if you put your foot on the gas and you start selling, right, hard and you start selling to your capability, that you can turn that around very quickly if you have that skill set, right? So not everybody's good at sales, not everybody's good at marketing, but the point is focus in on your strengths, not your weaknesses. I always say, if it's a weakness, you either need to hire somebody internally to handle it or outsource it, right? But the fact is don't focus in on your weaknesses. All right. So those are the 6. Stay positive, have a positive attitude. Number 2, build relationships. You can't do this alone. Number 3, surround yourself with smart people. Never be the smartest guy or gal in the room. Number 4, balance work and health and family. Number 5, understand that adversity is the norm as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a freight broker, as a freight agent. And number 6 is focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses.